Today, the evening is shining bright in Gurugram as we have a luminary amongst us. It's a sheer delight to have with us a man of global eminence, Lord Meghnad Desai. Let's all welcome him with a huge round of applause. Before I speak a few words about Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I extend a warm welcome to conversationalist Mr. Bibek Debroy ji and the amazing literary enthusiasts of Gurugram who have gathered at Radisson Blu Plaza to enjoy a rendezvous with Mr. Meghnad Desai. I, Shinjini Kulkarni, Ehsas woman of Noida, welcome you all for the first ever book launch event in Gurugram. The foundation, in association with Radisson Blu Plaza and Ehsas Women of Delhi and NCR, has curated a book launch event to unveil Mr. Meghnad Desai's work, Maya Bharata, the untold story behind the death of Lord Krishna. Mr. Desai's book, Maya Bharata, is a quest to resolve the unsolved secrets behind Sri Krishna, his death, the aftermath of the Kurukshetra war, and several other intriguing aspects connected to one of India's greatest epics, Mahabharata. Sir, thanks once again for enriching the world of English literature with another priceless book. Before we start the event, allow me to say a few words about Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a Kolkata-based non-profit trust which was established in the 1980s by the late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, an eminent literature enthusiast, cultural activist, and a staunch feminist. The foundation dedicatedly works to connect readers to the literary creations of authors and poets and showcases talented musicians, dancers, and performing artists through praiseworthy literary and cultural initiatives. Each initiative of the foundation enjoys a global identity and a niche audience, creating the finest experiences and cultural landmarks on the global map. India is a land of multiple assets, be it literary jewels, art and cultural treasures, ethnic handloom, crafts, or delightful local cuisine. It is this rich heritage that Prabha Khaitan Foundation has always aimed to protect from day one till now. The foundation has several boutique literary initiatives under its wing: an author's afternoon, the Right Circle, Kalam, Aakhar, etc. Out of the stellar initiatives, Kitaab holds a special place as it celebrates the birth of every new book and provides a platform for authors to showcase their newest literary creations to a discerning audience. The foundation has an active presence in more than 40 cities in India and overseas. The foundation enjoys the patronage of Shree Cements Limited and is ably assisted by distinguished associates, partners, and Ehsas Women of India in its effort to create cultural capital in India. To widen the cultural spectrum, Prabha Khaitan Foundation leaves no stone unturned to exchange cross-city mementos, treat chief guests and audiences to the taste of authentic local cuisine, and appreciate handloom and sculpture work of local artisans when it's time to show appreciation to the esteemed personalities. Prabha Khaitan Foundation cherishes and is inspired by the national philosophy, unity in diversity. The anthem of the foundation reflects this essence as well. Before I invite our distinguished guests, let us hear the anthem of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, so fondly and so lovingly created by the artists of India. I now request author Mr. Meghnad Desai, our chief guest Mr. Bibek Debroy, and conversationalist Ms. Apra Kuchal, honorary convener of Rajasthan and Central India Affairs and Ehsas Women of Jaipur, to come up on the stage and take their seats. I know we are all waiting to hear Mr. Desai, but I'm going to take 2 more minutes of your time as I take the golden opportunity to say a few words about the dignitaries of the day. Lord Meghnad Desai is a famous development economist and is a former Labour politician who is associated with a number of prestigious organizations. Lord Desai is Professor Emeritus of London School of Economics. He serves as the founder-chairman of the Meghnad Desai Academy of Economics in Mumbai. He has written numerous books and articles in learned journals and hundreds of newspaper columns in the UK and India. He has been awarded the Padma Bhushan in 2008. We welcome you, sir. With us as our chief guest for today is Mr. Bibek Debroy, who is an Indian economist, serving as the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. Debroy has made significant contributions to game theory, economic theory, income and social inequalities, poverty, law reforms, railway reforms, and Indology, among others. Mr. Debroy was a member of the Niti Aayog, the think tank of the Indian government. He was also awarded Padma Shri in 2015. Welcome, sir. As our conversationalist for the evening, we have Ms. Apra Kuchal, who is the honorary convener of Rajasthan and Central India Affairs of Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Ms. Kuchal is also an Ehsaas woman of Jaipur. She is the executive secretary of Rajasthan Forum and the former chairperson of FICCI Flow Jaipur. She is the founder of We Care, an initiative to promote women, youth, and culture. May I now request Ehsaas women of Delhi, Ms. Nilima Dalmia Adhar, Ms. Archana Dalmia, and Ms. Karuna Goenka to join us on the stage as we move towards the book launch. I also request Ms. Anandita Chatterjee, Executive Trustee of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, to come up on the stage and join us for the book launch, along with General Manager Shri Ashwin Goela ji of Radisson Blu, Delhi. It's time to start the conversation and regale in an engaging discussion on Lord Desai's book. I request Apra Kuchal ji to start the conversation and take over from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shinjini. A warm welcome to each one of you present here. And I know we're all very, very excited. Thank you so much, sir, for your presence. Before we begin, I'd like to hand over the mic to you and request you to speak a few words about your journey or about your association with Lord Desai.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hadn't quite expected that question. Let me put it like this. I'm not very sure whether one should call him Lord Desai. I'm not very sure about the procedure for the peerage. I guess it's technically Baron Desai now. When Baron Desai started to think about this book, I was just about being born. Not write the book, think about the book. When we were students, we knew him as an economist. Actually, we knew him as an econometrician. Meaning, those of you who are not economists may not know that there's a particular discipline in economics which deals with measurement and statistics, and that's called econometrics. So I used to think he was an econometrician. And then, as students, we read a book by his on Marxian economics. So I thought, okay, so he's a Marxian. And then I began to read some other stuff by him, and I started to think, oh, so he's a right-wing market-based economist. And then down the years, as I got to know him, I realized you cannot possibly straitjacket Meghnad Desai. As all of you know, he used to teach at the London School. When I briefly interacted with him then, he's still associated with the London School. Although he's technically retired, he's associated as Professor Emeritus. But I want to quickly bring to your attention the fact that I'm not sure which caused it. Either the retirement or the marriage to Kishore Aluwalia, who's seated here, has made him more productive in terms of writing books. He's become a prolific author. He has written on political economy. He has written on what has been happening in India since 2014. He has written on Dilip Kumar, although that's a little earlier. He has written on the Bhagavad Gita, and now he comes up with this book, which has been brewing in his mind since his teenage years and has now finally resulted in this.
Thank you so very much, sir, and very rightly said, Maya Bharat. When I got this book to read, I thought to myself, what is Maya Bharat? One has read Mahabharat, and when one is reading Mahabharat, there are many questions that arise. And there are many times when one is made to think differently. But when this book Maya Bharat was given to me, I really Googled a lot because I thought that, maybe something would be available there. But to my utter surprise, there is nothing available on the Google, on the internet. I think so much of research Lord Desai has done behind this subject. So, sir, first question is a very obvious question. Why Maya Bharat?
Well, Maya is the hero of this book. And it was very convenient to slot it into Maya Bharat because the book is written accepting the framework of the Mahabharata, disturbing it as little as possible, but inserting in it a new way of looking at what may have happened. I had to keep no surprises, no violation of what the text of Mahabharata has got in it. Vivek would have me, jailed for that if I do. Anyway, so the puzzle was that. Now, given that, of course, the word Maya is a double-edged word because we have a whole concept of Maya, and of course, there's Mayan civilization. So when I discovered the Mayan civilization when I was in America, I thought, nobody told me about this. Was there any connection between that Maya and this Maya? Well, nobody could answer it. So I think there's the Maya Danav. So let me imagine, let me hypothesize that the Maya Danav came from the Mayan civilization. That was my key once I realized the Mayan civilization. And the Mayan civilization is actually all to do, well, now there are fantastic buildings still around in Guatemala and Mexico and so on. So building, construction, architecture was Maya. And of course in Mahabharata, the Maya Danav builds Yudhishthira's palace. And the palace he builds is so fantastic that nobody has seen anything like it. Okay? I mean, because, Duryodhana drowns because he thinks it's a solid surface where is the water. His rules, Krishna can be very relaxed. But there must be a reason why he was once in Gokul and now he's in Dwarka. So luckily, reading K.R. Munshi's 7-volume book on Krishna, I found out that Krishna's grandfather was married to a Naga princess. Okay? So that as I said, that's quite a circle. Then I had closed the circle because I had a connection with Krishna and Naga people. I had a connection between Shura, his grandfather, who was round about this dry Indus basin. So they came here and then they went back. Now, many explanations of the Indus Valley's fall have been suggested, but one of the more recent ones is that it was a climate change disaster. The Indus Valley people abandoned the houses because the rain stopped. That is one of the outlets. So it all fits in, and I was just thinking together, Vivek said yesterday that I had joined the dots. I had joined the dots which nobody knew existed. I drew the dots and then I joined them. So he said, oh, maybe the dots were just hiding. And so I tell you, it may have taken me 65 years to write. I only wrote it during the pandemic, so it took me 63 years to think about it, and one summer to write it. But even in writing, I had to be very careful that it all kind of somehow fitted together. And I didn't want to spend too much time describing Indus Valley civilization or Mayan civilization. People get bored. I get bored. So it all moves very quickly. There's a bit of Mayan civilization, a bit of Indus Valley, but the action has to move fast. So poor Maya doesn't get to see much of Indus Valley because Krishna says, come and see me. And that is Krishna plans his own sort of death. And he plans it because in my idea is that maintaining dharma is a very difficult task. And finally the burden of maintaining dharma gets too much on Krishna, especially when the episode I've invented, that Draupadi is pregnant with a fetus. She wills that will be the son to succeed, and then Vyasa says, no, give it over to Uttara. That was dharma, i.e. you have to be just because Uttara's loss was greater than Draupadi's loss. And dharma is not kind, at least in my view, dharma is not kind to you. It is preservation of the whole structure. And to preserve the whole structure, small things like individuals have to go. No problem. So that is why Krishna, and of course the massacre among the Yadav young people, when they insult the Mahamunis, he had to agree to that because he'd already been taunted by Maya that why did you save your own people and let these people die in the Mahabharata war. Then he said, okay, dharma requires I let all my young people go, including my sons. And then he decided, this game is not worth it, I'm going. Thank you very much. And so he arranged it. So that is the dotted, joined together dots of my book.
So beautifully explained. I think I'm left with no question because I think he has touched each and every aspect. But of course, there are certain things which I really want to ask was, you've made each and every woman in the book very, very strong. If you read the book, from Draupadi to Uttara to Kunti, everybody is extremely strong. Even, Krishna's wives, they're very, very strong. So what actually made you to think that all these women were very, very bold? Each and every chapter was dedicated on women.
Yeah, partly in my family, there were strong women. I had an aunt, unmarried aunt, who was a teacher. She didn't marry. She was very well. Her brothers used to call her the Congress High Command. She always got her way in any family. And she had amazingly good service. And then my sister was very powerful. And then I grew up in the feminist culture, the rise of feminism in the 70s and 80s. I was there having all these arguments and learning a lot about women and how powerful they can be. And so we can't even stop call anybody a girl. You have to say a young woman because calling somebody a girl is very demeaning. So things like that. So, and we had long discussion in Marxism. Are housewives exploited so who is the exploiter? Is it the husband? Is it the capitalist system? All sorts of things. So I have, in my life experience, encountered very powerful women. Anyway, even if not that, I like women and my character in them now to be powerful to them. And Draupadi is very much my favorite person in that respect.
Do you think Draupadi is more balanced than Krishna in your book?
More?
Balanced and just.
No, but I think basically Draupadi is, ultimately Krishna has to run the system. He's in charge of everything, in whatever spare time he has. Draupadi has to make her own way into this world, but even after all this marriage, she still feels slightly alien. She's married to these 5 people. Her mother-in-law is a complete ogre because she's one and so on. She's never forgiven Kunti forever. And then she basically thinks that her children should have been the successor to Yudhishthira. They should have, because the whole of Mahabharata is about appropriate succession. Who succeeds is one of the themes of Mahabharata. At the end of the day, the eldest son of the blind oldest son does not get the kingdom, but the oldest son of the next brother, who is wasted in a disease, he gets the thing, and all that. And so, question also legitimacy of succession. Okay, and that's my interpretation. So, Draupadi knows that if she would have a child, she is one generation ahead of Uttara. And she's still young enough. I made the age calculation. She's still young enough to have a child. Because she's probably in her late 30s at most. So these are all young people. These are not old people, except for Bhishma. So she wants to have a child. Once she finds she is carrying a child, she wants to have her right established. And who establishes it? Krishna is not that, so Vyasa has to do. Vyasa is the other very senior person. And I've kind of given him all sorts of powers. I invented this telepathy that he can talk to Krishna, I mean, why not? Because it's plausible. So then Vyasa says, no, I have to check with Krishna that the rules of Dharma are that the person who lost more than you gets compensated, not you. No, that I completely made up. Okay? Because I wanted, somehow the thing still to be Uttara's son, because that's what the Mahabharata says, so I can't break that rule. I wanted Draupadi to be like this. And then I thought, there are a lot of people saying, oh, we Hindus invented everything. We invented skin grafting, this, that, long ago. So that if I attribute to Vyasa the power of transferring fetuses from one to another, nobody is going to object to that. So that worked out very well. So this is why I was, this is why it took a long time to write the book, because this bit appeared to be at the almost very end.
In the book, there is a point when, a reader gets a little confused. There's a twist you've done by putting 2 chapters on Kutal.
Yes.
So what was the purpose behind doing so?
Well, basically, I had to first of all bring him, even in the background story, from the Mayan civilization. At the beginning, when he appears, he is called Maharaja. He's a Raja. That's his only function there. And off he goes with his Anuja and her mother. But then I had to give some background of where he had come from. So I cut it off in the middle and write 2 or 3 chapters on Quetzal. How Quetzal happened to come from wherever he was to India. And then the question was twofold. Did he come from the east coast of Mexico or west coast of Mexico? Because the earth is round and you could come either way. And one other thing is, in old days, everybody used to sail everywhere. There are a lot of evidence that people sailed for miles. So he comes, by my judgment, on the west side through the South Pacific, and because then he can hop islands. Because islands are sort of near each other. I read up lots of books about people who went sailing around singly in yachts and so on. We had a lot of literature on that. And I kind of also talked to somebody in the House of Lords who was married to one of those sailors. So I kind of knew how long people can survive without food and water and all that. And so now, okay, I'll get him out and then have him rescued. And having him rescued gave me the link to different Naga civilizations across the South Pacific. And that's how I got him connected to, because there is a lot of snake worship. And so I got him connected to Taksha. And then Taksha brings him somehow to Calcutta, or whatever Calcutta was. And then he goes up the Ganges, but stops in Kanda forest, and then he's hired as an architect. So he doesn't go further west to the Indus Valley. He's stuck in this part. And then he's looking around and he can't find this thing. So anyway, that is the way I worked on the geography of this thing.
For dharma to balance, was it important for Krishna to die at the end?
Krishna dying was basically was the reason for the quest. I had to satisfy myself with an answer that Krishna constructed the reason for his own death, the technique of his own death. Because Krishna can't be killed by anybody. That's the first proposition. Krishna can't be killed by anybody else. He has to will his own death because he is God. And that's, this is not an Abrahamic God, this is a God. So, they have all the human characteristics, but they still have to be God. So Krishna has to will his own death, which can't be killed. So that is why I had to invent all this.
Also, there is a small little part where Arjun and Krishna, they talk to each other. And Arjuna says that, he was a little confused and, he doesn't remember anything further we know. So why didn't you put that into focus much? I mean, the story of Krishna and Arjuna also, because in Mahabharata, that is also supposed to be a very important part.
Well, you see, one of the things, obviously Krishna and Arjuna are together in setting fire to the Kanda forest, right? And then of course, Krishna is older than Arjuna and all that. And then, just before the war starts, Arjuna is a breakdown, basically. That's what it is. When the Bhagavad Gita starts, Gandhi is slipping from my arms, and I can't know where I am, so on, etc. And Krishna said, "Back up, come on, you got to fight a war. You're a Kshatriya." Anyway, so that's the whole thing. Now, I've always thought that while I have no problem, I have lots of problems, but no problem with the narration of the Gita, you can't have a whole 18 armies waiting till this dialogue gets finished of 18 adhyayas. Come on, this is way after lunch if you do that. So I only big change I made is that I moved that episode to the night before. And the evening before, and there was something, Arjun was very disheartened, he didn't want to fight. And his brothers all had to tell him, come on, get on with it. And so he goes to Krishna. And then Krishna gives him this Virat Swarup to see and fills up the whole sky. All that is there. But it happens the night before.
The most interesting part of the book, according to me, I found the conversation between Krishna and Maya very, very interesting. Can you tell us more about that? Of course, we'll have the readers buy the book and read it for themselves. But that was very thought-provoking.
Well, think about Krishna and Maya is that the way Maya occurs in the Mahabharata is with Krishna. With Krishna rescues him from the fire. Krishna sends Kanda to forest to fire, and then he rescues Maya, right? So clearly Krishna and Maya have a kind of umbilical kind of connection. And then they disappear, there's nothing together. Maya disappears, and so I had to bring them back because I created this crisis of Yudhishthira and all that, and they needed a king for the dharma to do this duty with this young woman, and then Krishna wouldn't do it, although he was a king. He knows about Maya, so Maya serves for Krishna's purpose to preserve dharma. And Maya said, I'm not playing this game, this is not my dharma, thank you very much. So in a sense, the notion of dharma is not universal. he comes from a civilization which has different ideas of dharma. And why not, you know? So there is a somewhat long argument between Maya and Krishna, which, you know, people will have to have patience with. But I try to make sense. So the point is, in all these dharma disputes very often in India, there are escape clauses. See, my favorite escape clause, just to divert, is the story when Mahatma Gandhi had taken a vow not to drink milk because he thought only cows give milk. And so when he felt very ill, and Jivraj Mehta said, I'm sorry, but you have to have milk. Why don't you have goat's milk instead of cow's milk? So then the reasoning is, when he took the first vow, he didn't know goats gave milk. Therefore, it is all right to take goat's milk. So that's the way out, you see. You satisfy you see, Calvinism would allow anything like this, you know. If you go to Calvinist Christianity, you made a contract with God, you got to suffer for this. But Hinduism is very flexible. It's like Catholicism. You can make bargains with God. If you do such and so, God will set this for you. So anyway, so I thought I know there is an escape clause. So the escape clause in this is, if you are proceeding outside the kingdom, not even get out of the kingdom, Yudhishthira has got a huge kingdom. If you're proceeding away from the kingdom, that is all right. Then dharma is preserved. So I'm being a very good orthodox dharmic person, following all the rules. But knowing that rules allow an escape. Because ultimately life has to go on, you know. You can't be all Buddhist. So there we are. So this is the way Maya being a Raja, and I didn't even have to say where he was a Raja of. I just made it all up. As long as he is going out of Hastinapur in a chariot, that's fine. And then Krishna says, I'll come with you, come. And then Krishna takes over, takes Maya there and so on. So I had this, then Maya and Krishna become a pair. And Krishna basically knows everything else and takes Maya to the Indus Valley civilization. And that's like fun, because also in Indus Valley civilization, you know, people like Amish have made such a fantastic picture of Indus Valley. I wanted to keep it absolutely dry, like in the discovery of India, you know, no messing around. It's a pre-Aryan thing, and it's abandoned. So there's nobody living there. And we don't know what happened in the past. So keeping that, I could get Maya to look at buildings and without, you know, kings and queens dancing around in the Indus Valley civilization. So that was easy for me. So keep it simple, you don't complicate it. Because I didn't have, you know, all my life left to do anymore. So that is all fitted in. And then bringing him back very quickly because Krishna wanted to die, and so, you know, brought him back in 2 days. And assume that sailing down the Indus is very fast. If anybody wants to object, they can say, well, how could you go down the Indus that fast from? So I think more or less, let's assume they can. So that is how all it fits in. And it's like a detective story, basically. It's a Mahabharata detective story. Who killed Krishna? I couldn't call it that because, you know, there'll be all kinds of trouble with this. So I call it Mahabharata.
With your permission, the book is extremely, if you pick up this book, I'm sure you would not want to leave it and you would want to read it, actually. So, with your permission, I'd like to read a few lines from the book, which I really...
Sure.
Yeah. I quote, "It was as per the order of things, Maya, I tried to explain to Arjuna the intricate philosophy of the principles of dharma that sustain the universe. There has to be law. Wrongs have to be righted, even if the process leads to further wrongs being committed with the cycle being resumed. But if in righting 5 wrongs, 1,000,000 die, and at the end 5 new wrongs have been committed, righting the old wrongs, it is not better to stop well before any of this starts."
Wow. Well, I wanted an argument. about, Dharma. I'm not an expert in that, but I thought it's a sentimental thing. But I wanted to show that somebody from outside this culture may not be convinced by these propositions that you have to do such and such. Because these stories and duties and so on are very culture bound. Even in Christianity, different sects passionately believe different things about what God does. I've read both the Old and the New Testament and all those other things. The Lutherans believe differently from the Catholics, and the Anglican Church believes differently from the Presbyterian Church and all that. They all have different notions of what God requires you to do. And they all have scriptural support. But it's still culture bound. So that, for example, a Jew would not believe what a Christian believes. So why would a man believe what Krishna says about Dharma? So the idea is that this is a man from outside. And to be from outside is very useful, because being from outside, he is a perfect person for Krishna to get to kill him. So that is finally a connection. He is not affected by the boon Krishna has got. That much I have to obey the rules.
Of course, I can go on asking questions, but I open the house in case if any one of you would like to have a question. Yes, please, sir.
Like he's a lawyer. I have to be careful.
I would not be acting as a lawyer. Good, you introduced that I am a lawyer. My name is Ashok Arora. I am a lawyer by profession for sure, but by passion I am more into motivation, and as an author and as a student of spirituality. You talked of maintaining dharma. Now which dharma you are talking, because we all know Sahir Ludhianvi in that film Chitralekha. He writes a very profound view of dharma, where he says, संसार से भागे फिरते हो, भगवान से क्या तुम पाओगे? ये पाप है क्या, ये पुण्य है क्या? रीतों पर धर्म की मोहरें हैं, हर युग में बदलते धर्मों को कैसे आदर्श बनाओगे? So he is saying that these are all endorsement of rituals. So how would you decide what is dharma?
No, you see, very simple. You have to realize that I don't believe in any of these things. I'm an atheist. I'm atheist with all the religions. No problem. But when I'm writing this, I have to take it seriously, because my readers believe in a certain story about the Mahabharata. And that Krishna, given what he says in the Bhagavad Gita and all that, he is there to maintain dharma. Desai, dharma, etc. So I'm keeping to the rules of dharma, whether I believe it or not, because those are the constraints put on me by the Mahabharata. I have to insert Mahabharata into the Mahabharata without breaking too many boundaries of the Mahabharata.
But you also talk of escape route. You also talk of escape route.
Yeah.
That is what Sahir is talking. हर युग में बदलते धर्मों को. So how do you balance? That is what we wish to learn from you.
But the thing is, I have to write a novel, and I have to make.
This can be topic of another book.
Yeah. Oh, listen. I hope not on dharma. No, but the interesting thing is, I had to solve this problem for myself, and that is the solution I found. That basically allow the escape for Yudhishthira by these people leaving. You see, I didn't really want to have that the dharma allowed this man Maya to violate this woman's daughter. That would be dharmic, but that would be obscene. So he's not going to do it. He's from another city, he's not going to do that. So then how do you invent a escape? But there are escapes available. And so, I tell you, it didn't take me 65 years for no other reason.
Yes.
Everything had to be thought through. Yes. Which, as I said, the constraint imposed by the Mahabharata are very strong. So I had to get myself into that kind of thinking and find escapes which were consistent with the notion of dharma.
Thank you, sir. You have been very smart and
I
intelligent.
mean, when you be a professor, you will always spare time.
I want to ask you, with all the research that you've done, and we believe Krishna to be a god, was he a god or was he a politician?
Well, basically the thing about him is that he has taken a human form. Okay? So while he is on earth, he can choose what he wants to be. Now, think of the Ramayana. The corresponding hero in the Ramayana, Ramachandraji, is not a politician. One thing is not a politician. Krishna would have found the answer to the dhobi in no time at all. It takes in 5 minutes. But Sri Ramachandraji is absolutely straightforward. And Krishna is not like that. Krishna is cunning. He's kind of a, I wouldn't say Machiavellian, but Chalukyan. I would say Chanakyan. And he is very ingenious because he basically does the Arjun Draupadi marriage. He says, when he came, his grandfather Shura arranged for Kunti to be adopted by Kunti Bhoj because they wanted alliances. And his father Vasudeva marries Devaki. That's another alliance. Because these guys have come from Sindh into UP, and there are problems. So they want friends. So Shura is sort of a hidden hero of this book. He does all this thing. And then of course some things don't work with Devaki and Kans have this problem and so on. So, but Krishna is taught, in a sense I say something, Vasudeva teaches Krishna a lot about this political cunning. And languages and so on. The idea was there knows languages. Krishna knows languages. And Krishna is surprised that he doesn't know the language Maya speaks. But he knows the language that Daksha's wife speaks. Because she's speaking Tamil. That's implicit assumption. I didn't say Tamil, otherwise I'll have people attacking me. But it's an old language. My idea is that basically a lot of people from there went to Tamil Nadu by the sea when the rainfalls failed. But the thing is, I had to invent all this. And so Krishna is a politician. He is involved in the Udyog Parv, when there was some chance of a truce between Duryodhana and Yudhishthira, and that chance fails. When the Udyog Parva says he fails, then now the question, as Maya said, did you arrange for Arjun to sit at your feet and Duryodhana to sit at the head so that Arjun would see you first? Or how much were you manipulating these people? And how much did it happen by chance, and how much were you actually manipulating the outcome? And Krishna doesn't deny it. At least in my book, he doesn't deny it. So he has a program. Of course, he's a master politician. But he uses his own powers very sparingly. He could have prevented everything, but he doesn't do that.
Just to add to this, as children, we are taught to pray to him. He's a god.
Yeah.
But yet he comes with a lot of flaws in his personality, which confuse us. That how can we pray to a man who's like that?
But my view is, okay, Krishna, you have to be able to explain to children that the world is not all good. Right? It's very important in having brought up 3 children, I can tell you. Early on you have to explain, the world is not all good. Not everybody is good, people are coming. Now, how do you still have faith in anything if the world is not good? Now see, there's a whole literature in Christianity saying, why would God create a world in which there is evil if He is God? Right? And Annie Besant had a whole crisis about this. The world is not good. which is why you need occasionally, yada yada dharmasya, etc., somebody to be there. So Krishna is, in my view, a much more interesting God than Rama is, because he knows the world is not good. And he knows how to make it slightly better as you go along. And he's all. But he himself doesn't have to be good, because he needs to be bad sometimes to make the world good. See, that is the peculiar thing about. He's much more interesting God than any God of the Bible. The one God of the Bible, I should say. So, because he is in a human form. By his own choice, he is in a human form. And then he leaves a human form. By his own. You see, what happens to Ramchandra, at least if the Uttarakhand is, I haven't yet read Vivek's translation, but I did go to ISC library yesterday. He lives 13,000 years after Sita leaves him. 13,000 years is very boring. But he shows no cunning at all. He just goes through life and believing all the opinion posts about him. And when one is against, he says, oh my God, what have I done? So he's very straight. Krishna is not straight. And Krishna is a more interesting person to worship. Because to have a completely perfect person to worship would be very boring. Because you could never attain that. You could have never attained that.
Thank you.
Any other question? Anyone?
Yeah.
A little bit of a throwback into the Mahabharata, before the Mahabharata. You talk of dharma, and you talk of an escape route, and then you talk of God, which of course Krishna embodies God and he has all the qualities or the negativities that come with human form. Which dharma and which God who was protecting her would sanctify the disrobing of Draupadi? Why did not he stop it? Why did he wait till the end to give her that whole big ream of cloth? Why did not he encourage Arjun to put an end to it there and then? She went through the whole ordeal, after which he rescued her. So what is the escape route?
Well, Draupadi's story is a very interesting story, because this, in the film, there is this miracle that Krishna suddenly comes and clothes Draupadi all in a through. So she said, that is not in the original Mahabharata. As far as I know, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
So which dharma would sanctify the disrobing of Draupadi in the whole Sabha where all the elders and the...
I have thought a lot about that, you see, because in the Mahabharata, original Mahabharata, since Vivek is not here, I can now make it up. There is an expression, Ek Vastra Rajaswara. Right? She is menstruating, and therefore she is wearing only one piece of cloth. And she is humiliated in that position. So her anger about this entire Kuru family has great justice. And the whole war takes place because of her wanting a revenge. It's not about land and succession. It's what she went into exile for 13 years, 12 in the forest, 1 in Virat, and then she came back. And she definitely wanted Dushasan's blood. His blood. She has lost her blood and she wants his blood. Now, see, that ferocity of Draupadi has never been explained in the thing. But it is a nobody did anything to save her.
That was my question.
But you see, she had to not rescue because the war was necessary to establish Dharma.
That's the escape route, I guess.
That is escape route, because ultimately you can't, one way. This man, the Chicago translator, is Belgian, Johannes, whatever his name is in my introduction. He has a very nice introduction to to the first volume of the Mahabharata. And he says Mahabharata is all about legitimacy of succession. That, in a sense, it can't be because there is no legitimate successor. If it goes by primogeniture, then Duryodhana is the correct successor. He is the eldest son of the eldest son, period. There can be no doubt about that. Then you suddenly find all this, 5 brothers and all that. So there is a muddled issue as to who wins. And ultimately Krishna makes Pandavas win. That's what Krishna is there for. So Krishna is there for establishing dharma from that point of view, that dharma requires a war. A really serious war among all the, if you think about it, it's from Gandhara to Virat across all of North India. There are 18 lakh soldiers, or 18 lakh people killed in 18 days in the Mahabharata war. That's a massacre. Now, all that was necessary. Why was it necessary? So somehow, the Mahabharata story is a much more horrendous story of the point of maintaining dharma in the universe. Which I didn't want to go down that route because, I also know a lot about that, but that's not interesting. But knowing that, Draupadi remains unavenged until Bhim, kills Dushasana and has blood. And she says in my book, I was not happy till I had that blood of that man in my hair. And she wasn't dressing her hair and so on. And for 13 years she did not dress her hair, but she served her husband faithfully and all that sort of stuff. Now, when you think about a character like Draupadi, she is bearing the burden of the entire injustice in the thing. And all the time the men are prancing around. They are the heroes. Arjuna is the hero and all that. But she is the person who is a big sufferer from the system. And the injustice is not because she is a woman in particular, but she happens to be married to these people, and those guys don't like her. Those guys don't like polyandry. They believe in monogamy, so they don't like this people coming from the hill, from the bottom of the Himalayan hills. The story is that the Panchalas did have polyandry, which was a polyandry story. You say about Kunti and all that, but it's a polyandrous culture. And so these guys don't like it. They think she's a whore. She's not a proper woman, not a proper wife. So they all hate her. Karna hates her. Actually said in that court scene, Karna says that she is no good and all that. So Draupadi is the center of a lot of hatred in the Mahabharata. And so either the Krishna says that, it's a good Bollywood stuff, but that is not in the, that was actually created to console people. How come nobody came to her help, but Krishna came to, okay, that's all right. But that's not what happened, and not in the original Mahabharata. So the original Mahabharata is quite merciless about this. So, and this is the big injustice in the Mahabharata. The injustice done to Draupadi. And she says, how could they stake me when they were not their own, they own their own selves? And that's a very, very good question she raised, which has still not been answered in philosophy. Because she said, as soon as they lost themselves, I was a free woman. I was nobody's. Now see, that whole argument needs yet to be developed from the Mahabharata. I'm not going to do it. I've done my job.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, you know what, Archana ji just has, she raised this point that, he was more of a politician. In his book, at one point of time, Krishna's asked that death is their death. Why did you prevent killing of so many men? I mean, you could have done that.
Yeah.
He could have done that.
Absolutely. the whole thing. In a sense, at one way, the war was unnecessary because they could have divided the land. At one stage, Yudhishthira said, give me 5 villages and I'll be all right, and Duryodhana said, nothing doing. So, yes, Krishna could have settled the battle in the Udyog Parva itself, but he doesn't. And so clearly, as Maya says to him, you're responsible for this war because you have the power to prevent it. So in a sense, Maya and Krishna are kind of philosophical antagonists in this scene. They have this argument back and forth because Maya, coming from outside, can't understand what's going on here. And I also having this saying to himself, these white people are just, they don't think, they act with passion, things like that, except for Krishna and the dark man who thinks. So he basically says all these people are just, unthinking, very emotional, instinctive behavior. And none of them use their head. And Krishna does. Because Krishna is not one of them, Krishna comes from outside. Now see, that is a big deviation from how people think of Krishna. Right?
Intrigued by this man.
Sorry?
Krishna is intrigued by this man,
Yeah,
He
but
raises such
also the man is intrigued by
question.
Krishna because he said he is different from all these other people, all these other tall blonde people. I said because he is not tall and blonde, he is dark. He is blue. He is Shama.
This chapter on the conversation is so interesting. I mean, very, very interesting. I actually read that chapter twice.
I just want to ask you one more question. That when Draupadi is being disrobed and she thinks of Krishna as the last resort, that come and help me, and he appears, and
Not in Mahabharata.
in the Mahabharata when
No,
she's
it
being
doesn't.
disrobed by the
No, in the Sutankar Mahabharata, there was a big thing of editing the correct text of the Mahabharata in the 1940s, and the man called Sutankar was at the Bhandarkar Institute. In the official Bhandarkar Mahabharata, Krishna doesn't rescue Draupadi. That is invented by other people, and then Hollywood took it over, and everybody was happy. What I'm saying, that was an script invented by somebody else. In the Mahabharata, it is not there.
So how does she get rescued?
Mahabharata is not there.
She doesn't get rescued.
No.
She is not rescued.
She's raped.
Yeah, that's what it is. Nobody says that. But I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah,
because
let's
I
not
wanted
say
to
that.
let you know.
Let's yeah,
But you
let's-
see, this is the thing about Mahabharata is much more kind of bloody text than Ramayana is. And it is much more cynical and not given to just virtuous people. Nobody is actually pure in the Mahabharata.
Yeah, it's a story
Maybe
of-
Vidura is the only person I know. And every time Vidura is referred to, they refer to the fact that he is low-born because his mother was a dasi in the palace, whereas the mothers of Dhritarashtra and Pandu were Ambika and Amalika. The one of the three sisters whom Bhishma had abducted from their Swayamvar.
So, as blasphemous as it might sound, the Mahabharata is a story of all illegitimate children, or in cruder words, bastards.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you know,
we think of them as
The Mahabharata is obsessed about this because whose child and so on. I mean, for example, the fact that Satyavati, when she marries Shantanu, she's already had a child who is Vyasa from the Parashar Muni, right?
Yeah.
And she is going up and down the river. And her other name is Vatchagata. She smells like a fish. But then Shantanu falls in love with her. But she's so cunning, she makes a condition. My children will unbearably inherit each generation You can't just give me this generation, next generation. So she's a very, very tough woman. And she marries, and then Bhishma says, okay, that's what you want, I won't marry and I won't do anything. So then he has to go and steal, abduct those 3 women, of whom one walks away, and Ambika and Balika bear this. And then, of course, I don't know why there has to be a third, but the third is Vidur. It's very interesting. There's absolutely no reason why Vidur should be there. He's there. He's the only clean person in the entire Mahabharata thing. He is totally innocent. He could have done the peace, but he doesn't. But it's a Mahabharata, again and again, for example, women, the Kurus are always importing women from other families. They have no daughters. Dhritarashtra has 100,001 daughters. What a great women deficit there is. Pandavas, there are no daughters to Kunti or Madre. They're all men. I mean, if you read the Rig Veda, every hymn says, give us more sons. There are no daughters at all that they are asking for. So, anyway, the Kurus are always importing women from outside. Gandhari comes from Peshawar to marry this black man. Imagine that. Her brother Shakuni had to bring her. But she, when she gets there, discovers she is blind, she then blinds herself. She tries everything, and all her life she acts like a blind woman because she is a good wife and therefore she should be blind if her husband is blind. And that is the logic.
Thank you.
I think that's enough of this. You're going to get in more trouble.
Thank you so much, Mr. Desai, for such an engaging conversation here. And I'm inspired to read the book right away, and I'm sure that I'll finish it in one sitting. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you.
You have to then write an answer to the Mahabharata.
I am sure I will take a lot of time developing an intellect for that. But on behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I take this opportunity to request Ms. Vandana Singh ji to kindly come up on the stage and felicitate author Meghnad Desai ji. You have already kindly felicitated Vivek Debroy ji for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow. I'm very good.
Thank you. Under the wings of Kitaab initiative, Prabha Khaitan Foundation appreciates when a new star shines in the constellation of literature. Out of choicest literary initiatives, Kitaab holds a place of prominence. Kitaab is the boutique book launch event which has celebrated new book releases of veteran and new writers. Today's Kitaab in Gurugram has indeed been a spectacular one, celebrating the latest literary creation of Mr. Meghnad Desai. On behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I, Shinjini Kulkarni, Ehsaas Woman of NCR, would like to express my sincerest gratitude to author Meghnad Desai, our chief guest, Mr. Bibek Dobroy, and Apra Kulcharji, Ehsaas Woman Jaipur, for a highly engaging session that brought forth profound discussions on the author's latest book on the blog, Maya Bharat, the untold story behind the death of Lord Krishna. I would also like to thank our presenter, Shree Cement Limited, and our venue and hospitality partner, Radisson Blue Plaza and Ehsaas Women of Delhi. Last but not the least, a big round of applause for the most amazing and receptive audience. Your presence has made today's Kitaab event successful and enjoyable. Thank you so much.